The first contraction didn't feel like the movies. There was no dramatic gasp, no perfectly timed water breaking in a clean hallway. It felt like my body had decided to snap me in half from the inside. I clutched the edge of the hospital reception counter and tried not to fold. The fluorescent lights above me were too bright, too white, too unforgiving, like they could see every mistake I'd ever made. "Ma'am, can you tell me your name?" the intake nurse asked, her voice calm in the way people are calm when they've seen everything. "Mina," I breathed. "Mina Hale." My hands were shaking so hard I couldn't hold my ID card steady. Sweat dampened the loose hair clinging to my forehead, and the oversized hoodie I'd worn to hide my belly during the ride-up now felt like a wet blanket. Another contraction surged, sharper this time, stealing air from my lungs. I squeezed my eyes shut and forced myself to count the way the prenatal video said. In for 4, out for 6. I had watched those videos alone at 3 in the morning, sitting on the floor of my apartment with a cheap pregnancy pillow prop behind my back, trying not to cry too loudly, so the neighbors wouldn't know I was pregnant. So no one would know. "Any support person with you?" the nurse asked, glancing over my shoulder as if expecting someone to appear. "No," I said quickly. Too quickly. "It's just me." There was a flicker in her eyes, sympathy, maybe judgment. I couldn't blame her. Who shows up in labor alone? Who does that unless she has no one? Or unless she's hiding from everyone? She handed me a clipboard. "We need some information. Insurance, allergies, emergency contact." The word emergency contact landed like a stone in my stomach. I swallowed and took the clipboard, my fingers leaving damp marks on the plastic. The paper blurred in front of me. Emergency contact. I didn't have one. My mother and I hadn't spoken since I was 19 and told her I was moving to the city. "You'll come crawling back," she'd said. "You always do." I never did. Not even after the pregnancy test turned positive. Not even when I wanted to. My friends were coworkers at the cafe. People I joked with during shifts, not people I trusted with the kind of truth that could destroy my life. And the father. I bit down hard on the inside of my cheek. No. I wasn't thinking his name. Not now. Not ever. The nurse's pen tapped gently against the counter. "Do you need help filling it out?" No, I shook my head. I can do it." The next contraction hit before I could sign my own name. The clipboard slid from my hands and clattered against the tile floor. I made a sound I didn't recognize, something between a gasp and a sob. 2 nurses were at my side immediately, supporting my elbows, guiding me toward a wheelchair like they'd done this 1,000 times. "Okay, sweetheart," one said. "We're going to get you upstairs." "I can walk," I protested, stubbornness slipping out of me like a reflex. If I walked, I wasn't helpless. If I walked, I still had control. The nurse only smiled. "You're 8 centimeters, honey. You're not walking anywhere." 8. My heart stuttered. I hadn't even made it to the hospital in time. I told myself I had hours. I told myself the pain would start slow, like a warning. My body didn't warn me. It just decided. They wheeled me down the hallway, past worried families and vending machines, past a man arguing with security, past a row of chairs where a couple clung to each other. I stared at them too long. The woman looked up, her hand on her belly, and our eyes met. I looked away fast, ashamed. Like being seen meant being exposed. In the delivery room, the air was colder. Sterile. The kind of cold that seeped into your bones. Machines beeped softly around me as they transferred me to the bed, peeled off my hoodie, and replaced it with a thin hospital gown that made me feel like paper. The nurse, her badge read Lila, hung the floor and spoke softly. "You're doing great. Your baby's heartbeat is strong." My throat tightened. "My baby," I whispered like it was a prayer. Lila picked up the clipboard again and set it on my lap. "We still need that emergency contact." I stared at the line until the letters stopped looking like letters. Emergency contact name, underscore, 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 underscore. I could write none. I could write unknown. I could write not available. But a frightening thought rose in me, bright and terrible. What if something goes wrong? What if I'm not fine? What if I'm not here when my baby opens his eyes for the first time? My hands trembled as I lifted the pen. In my head, I saw the father's face, not clearly, not like a sweet memory. Like a shadow. Sharp jaw. Dark eyes. A scar near his temple that he told me was an old mistake. His voice had been warm that night. Too warm. Like honey poured over a blade. He hadn't told me his real name. He hadn't needed to. Everyone around him had moved like he owned the air they breathed. I'd been serving coffee at an exclusive charity gala because my boss owed someone a favor. I hadn't even wanted to go. I'd worn a borrowed black dress and pinned my hair up like I belonged there. And then I'd bumped into him. Literally. My tray had tilted. Champagne had spilled down his suit. I'd expected yelling. Instead, he'd taken my wrist gently, steadying me. Careful, he'd murmured. I'd hate for you to get hurt. I should have run. Instead, I'd looked up and felt the floor disappear. That was 7 months ago. 7 months of silence. 7 months of trying to forget him. 7 months of building a life around the baby growing inside me, convincing myself I didn't need anyone. But this line on the paper didn't care about my pride. The pen hovered. Lila's eyes softened. It can be anyone you trust. Anyone I trust. My laugh came out strangled. That's the problem. The contraction returned like a warning siren, rolling through me with brutal certainty. My body arched, my fingers crushing the clipboard. Okay, Lila said quickly. Breathe with me. In out. I tried. I tried so hard. And when it eased, when my breath returned and my vision cleared, I made a decision that felt like stepping off a cliff. I wrote the only number I still remembered. The one he pressed into my phone that night and told me almost casually, if you ever need something, call. I hadn't called. Not once. Name, D. Russo. Relationship, my pen paused, friend. Phone. The digits I'd memorized like a curse. Lila glanced down, then froze. Just for half a second. Then her face smoothed into professional calm. But I saw it. Recognition. Fear. She cleared her throat and tucked the clipboard into my chart. Okay. We're set. My stomach twisted. Why did you look like that? She didn't answer directly. She checked my monitor instead. You're progressing fast. Doctor will be in soon. I tried to swallow, but my mouth was too dry. Are you going to call him? We call the emergency contact if there's an emergency, she said carefully. But you're in active labor and... A different nurse stepped in, eyes wide. Lila. She's fully dilated. Lila's focus snapped back to me. Okay, Mina. Listen to me. Baby's coming fast. My heart pounded. I'm not ready. No one feels ready, she said firm. But you can do this. Another contraction hit, and this time it felt different. Not just pain, pressure, a force, the kind that didn't ask permission. I screamed, one raw sound, and gripped the bed rails as if I could hold myself together with metal. Push, Lila instructed. When I tell you, you push. I pushed. The world narrowed into a tunnel of breath and sound and sweat. My mind went blank except for one terrifying thought. What if the hospital calls him? What if he actually answers? What if he comes? And then, in the middle of my panic, I heard the door open. Not the gentle click of a nurse. A decisive swing. Heavy footsteps. Voices male, low, urgent. And a single calm command that cut through the chaos like a blade. Where is she? My blood turned to ice. Because even after 7 months, I recognized that voice. And I realized the hospital hadn't called him by mistake. I had invited the mistake myself. And now it was walking straight toward me. The door didn't just open. It announced him. Every sound in the room seemed to pause for half a heartbeat. The beeping monitor, the rustle of gloves, even my own ragged breathing. Like the hospital itself had decided to make space. I lifted my head, sweat stinging my eyes, and saw him. He was taller than I remembered. Or maybe the last time I'd seen him, I hadn't been lying half naked in a delivery bed with my body splitting open. His suit was charcoal, perfectly tailored like it had been cut from shadow. His dark hair was slightly disordered, just enough to tell me he'd moved fast to get here. And his eyes, they locked on me with the kind of focus that made my stomach drop. Not surprise, not confusion, recognition. Like he'd been searching for me in every room he walked into, and now the search had ended. 2 men stood behind him in the doorway. broad-shouldered, scanning the room like it was a threat. One had an earpiece. The other had that stillness that screamed weapon without needing to show one. The nurse nearest the door stuttered. "Sir, you can't, this is..." He didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. "I'm her emergency contact," he said, holding up his phone. "Your staff contacted me." Lila's face went pale. I watched her glance at his name, as if it carried weight she didn't want to touch. "Mr. Russo," she said carefully. My throat tightened. Russo. That was the name he'd given me at the gala. Just a letter and a surname, as if his first name was too dangerous for the world. He stepped forward, and I swear the air changed. The room felt smaller, the ceiling lower. "Mina," he said. My name in his mouth sounded like a reminder of something I tried to bury. I should have told him to leave. I should have demanded privacy. I should have protected myself and my baby from the kind of man who walked with shadows trailing behind him. But another contraction rose like a wave, and all my strength went into not screaming. Lila leaned close to me. "Do you want him here?" she whispered. "You can say no." I opened my mouth. Nothing came out. Because the truth was twisted and humiliating, I didn't know what I wanted. I only knew what I feared. I feared being alone. I feared him. I feared the baby. I feared the future. And then he was at my bedside, closer than I expected, close enough for me to smell him. Clean cologne over something darker, like cold air before a storm. His gaze dropped to my belly, then to the monitor. His jaw clenched. "You're in labor," he said, like he'd just discovered a fact he couldn't forgive. "Yes," I rasped. "That's usually why people are here." His eyes snapped back to mine. The anger in them wasn't loud. It was controlled, contained. The kind of anger that didn't break things by accident, only by decision. "How far along?" he asked, voice sharp. "Fully," Lila answered before I could. "She's about to deliver." He didn't look at her. He didn't look away from me for even a second. "How long have you been here?" he demanded. "An hour." I snapped, then immediately regretted it when another wave of pain hit and my voice broke into a whimper. His gaze flickered, just for a moment, to something I didn't want to see. Worry. Then it vanished behind the iron mask again. "You came alone," he said. "It wasn't on purpose," I lied. "I mean it was, but..." I couldn't form the sentence. Because if I admitted I'd been planning to do everything alone, I'd have to explain why. And explaining why would unravel every carefully tied knot in my life. Lila moved quickly, checking my cervix, adjusting my legs into stirrups. "Okay, Mina." Next contraction, you push. I squeezed my eyes shut. "Okay." He didn't move. He didn't leave. He stayed right there, a dark figure beside the bed, watching the nurses like they might fail me if he blinked. The contraction hit. "Push," Lila ordered. I pushed. It felt like my body was turning inside out. Like every nerve was on fire. I cried out, my hands grabbing blindly for something. His hand found mine. Warm. Strong. Unyielding. He gripped my fingers like he was anchoring me to the earth. "Breathe," he said low. "Look at me." I didn't want to. But I opened my eyes anyway, because his voice was the only thing that cut through the white-hot panic. "Again," Lila said. "Push again." I did. My vision blurred with tears. The room became a smear of faces and gloves and lights. All I could feel was pain and pressure and his hand firm around mine. "You're doing it," he said. "You hear me? You're doing it." I hated that his voice steadied me. I hated that it worked. Between contractions, I gasped, "Why are you here?" He leaned closer, his mouth near my ear, and his voice dropped into something dangerously soft. "Because you put my name on a hospital form," he said. "And the world doesn't get to call me for you without me answering." I swallowed hard. "They called you by mistake." His fingers tightened slightly. "No." I blinked at him. He held my gaze, and I felt something inside me go cold. "You didn't write a wrong number," he said. "You didn't write a stranger. You wrote me." My lips trembled. I panicked. His eyes flickered down to my belly again, then back to my face. "How long have you been pregnant?" I looked away. "Look at me," he repeated. That same command, quieter but sharper. I forced my eyes back to his. 7 months, I whispered. Something dangerous flashed across his expression. Not disbelief, Betrayal. You've been carrying a baby for 7 months, he said slowly, and you didn't say a word. I didn't know how to find you, I said, the anger finally clawing its way through the fear. You vanish. People like you don't have normal lives. You don't have addresses and public numbers. I gave you a number. A number that never answered. I shot back. I called. I left messages. Nothing. His jaw tightened hard enough that a muscle jumped near his temple. The room was too bright, too loud, too full of other people for this conversation. But somehow it felt like only we existed inside it. You should have tried again, he said. I should have. I laughed and it came out broken. I was sick every morning for weeks. I was working shifts. I was paying rent. I was terrified. And I was doing it alone because I didn't think you. A contraction cut me off. I screamed and pushed before anyone told me to. Lila's voice snapped. Good. Keep going. His hand on mine didn't move. His thumb brushed across my knuckles like a strange comfort. When it eased, I panted, I didn't think you'd want this. His gaze turned lethal. You don't get to decide what I want. My breath hitched. Then why didn't you come back? Silence. For the first time, his expression cracked. Something flickered behind his eyes, old anger, old grief, the kind of thing that didn't belong in a delivery room. I was dealing with something, he said tightly. That's not an answer. It's the only one you're getting right now, he said, then added, quieter, not while you're in pain. Lila moved to the end of the bed, her eyes focused. Mina, I can see the head. My heart lurched. Oh God, I whispered. He leaned down, close enough that I could feel his breath. You're not alone, he said, voice rough. Not anymore. The words should have comforted me. Instead, they scared me more than the pain. Because men like him didn't enter your life softly. They entered like storms. And once they arrived, they didn't leave without taking something. Next contraction, Lila warned, big push. It hit like a freight train. Now, she shouted. I screamed and pushed with everything I had left. The pressure became unbearable. Then suddenly, the door opened again. A different nurse rushed in, out of breath, eyes wide. Lila, there are security officers downstairs, she blurted. They're asking about the men with Mr. Russo. They said. Russo turned his head slightly. The movement was minimal, but it radiated threat. The nurse's voice died. Tell them, he said calmly. They don't want to ask questions today. The nurse swallowed hard and nodded like she'd been given a mercy. Then she fled. I stared at him, shaking. Who are you? I whispered. His gaze returned to me like a blade sheathing itself. The man you called, he said. The man who doesn't ignore calls about his child. My stomach flipped. Push, Lila interrupted, urgent now. Mina, the baby's almost here. I could barely breathe. Almost here. The baby I'd whispered to at night. The baby I'd promised I'd protect from the world. The baby whose father was standing beside my bed like a verdict. I squeezed his hand, not because I trusted him, because my body needed something solid. And as I pushed again, I realized something that made my blood turn to ice. If he was right, if he already knew, then this wasn't the hospital's mistake. This was his, because he was here to claim what he believed was his. And I didn't know how to stop him. The room exploded into motion. Push harder. Good, don't stop. Heads out, one more. The voices blurred together, overlapping like noise underwater. My body wasn't mine anymore. It was something ancient and desperate, obeying instincts older than fear. I screamed and pushed, my throat burning, my vision tunneling until there was nothing left but pressure and pain and the crushing certainty that I couldn't stop even if I wanted to. And then, a sound cut through everything. Sharp. Hi. Alive. A cry. My cry broke into a sob as the pressure vanished all at once, leaving me shaking and empty and overwhelmed. It's a boy, Lila announced, breathless but smiling. You did it, Mina. You did it. They placed him on my chest before my brain could catch up with reality. He was warm and slippery and impossibly small, his skin flushed and wrinkled, his tiny fists clenched like he was already fighting the world. His cries softened into little hiccuping sounds as he settled against me, instinctively searching for something familiar. My heart shattered. Oh, I whispered, tears spilling freely now. Oh, my baby. I traced a trembling finger along his cheek, his nose, his dark lashes. He was perfect. He was real. He was mine. I laughed and cried at the same time, a sound pulled from somewhere deep and raw. Then I remembered. Slowly, I looked up. Russo stood frozen at my side, staring at the baby like he'd just watched the universe rewrite itself. The control menace was gone, stripped away by something raw and unguarded I never expected to see on his face. Shock. Awe. Something like fear. His hand hovered inches above my son, fingers flexing like he didn't trust himself to touch something so fragile. That's him, I whispered, my voice shaking. That's my son. His eyes flicked to mine. Our son, he said quietly. The words landed heavy in my chest. No, I said automatically, even as my heart betrayed me with a painful flutter. You don't get to. He looks like me, Russo interrupted, his voice low, stunned. The eyes, the chin. I hated that he was right. I hated that the proof was there, undeniable and perfect. Lila cleared her throat gently. Would you like to cut the cord? Russo blinked, like the question pulled him back into the room. Yes, he said immediately. I would. I opened my mouth to protest, but then I saw the way his hands shook as he accepted the scissors. The sight stole the words from my throat. He cut the cord carefully, reverently, like it was a sacred act. When he finished, he exhaled a breath I hadn't realized he'd been holding. They're going to clean him up, Lila said. Then we'll bring him right back. No, Russo said instantly. Lila hesitated. Sir. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't have to. He stays with her. Lila looked at me. I swallowed, then nodded. Please. She smiled softly. All right. They wiped my son down gently while he stayed pressed to my chest. He quieted completely, his tiny fingers curling into the fabric of my gown like he was afraid to let go. I felt dizzy with love and terror. With him here, everything had changed. The nurses finished their checks and stepped back, giving us space. The room grew quieter, the chaos retreating until there was only the steady beep of the monitor and my baby's soft breaths. Russo pulled a chair close to the bed and sat, his movements slow, deliberate. His gaze never left my son. What's his name? He asked. I hesitated. I hadn't told anyone the name I'd whispered to my belly in the dark. It felt private, sacred. Leo, I said finally. His name is Leo. Russo repeated it softly, testing it. Leo. A faint smile touched his mouth. Strong name. I watched him carefully. You don't get to rename him. The smile vanished. I wasn't planning to, he said. You chose it. That matters. The sincerity in his tone unsettled me more than arrogance ever could. Silence stretched between us, heavy with things unsaid. Finally, I whispered, Why are you really here? He leaned back slightly, folding his hands together. Because when the hospital called, they said a woman I knew was in labor. Alone. I flinched. They said her emergency contact was me, he continued. And because I'm not a man who ignores that. I scoffed weakly. You ignored me for 7 months. His jaw tightened. I didn't know where you were. You didn't try hard enough. Something dark flickered behind his eyes. Be careful. Anger sparked in my chest. Don't threaten me. He inhaled slowly, visibly forcing himself to calm down. I'm not threatening you. I'm warning you. There are things you don't understand. Then explain them. His gaze dropped to Leo again. Not in this room. A chill ran down my spine. Why? Because hospitals have ears, he said quietly. And enemies have patience. The word enemies made my grip tighten around my son. What kind of man are you? I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. He met my eyes, and for the first time, he didn't dodge the question. The kind of man people fear, he said. The kind of man who doesn't get second chances. My heart pounded. Then why should I trust you near my child? His answer came without hesitation. Because anyone who wants to hurt him would have to go through me first. That didn't comfort me. It terrified me. A doctor entered briefly, congratulated me, confirmed everything looked good, and informed me I'd be moved to recovery soon. When she left, Russo stood. I'm making arrangements, he said. You'll have a private room. Security. No, I said quickly. I don't want. You need rest, he cut in. And protection. I don't want your protection, I snapped. I want to go home. His eyes sharpened. Home where? My apartment. The one with the broken lock, he asked calmly. The one above a bar with police sirens every night? My stomach dropped. How do you? I know things, he said. That's why you're not taking my son there. Your son, I repeated bitterly. You don't get to decide that. I absolutely do, he said, his voice low and dangerous when his safety is involved. I hugged Leo closer, my fear turning sharp. You can't just walk into my life and take over. His gaze softened just slightly. I'm not taking over. I'm stepping in. I didn't ask you to. You didn't have to, he replied. You wrote my name. The door opened before I could respond. Two men stepped inside, his men. One spoke quietly into an earpiece, then nodded at Russo. It's handled, the man said. Media's been redirected. Security downstairs is cooperative. Media? My heart skipped. What media? Russo looked back at me. Exactly why we're not discussing this here. I shook my head, overwhelmed. This is insane. He crouched slightly beside the bed, bringing himself level with me. His voice dropped, intense but controlled. Listen to me, he said. I know this is not what you planned, but the moment Leo was born, your life stopped being small. Tears stung my eyes. I didn't want this world for him. Neither did I, he said quietly. But it exists whether we like it or not. He stood again, straightening his jacket. I'm not asking you to trust me today. I'm asking you not to be reckless. And what if I say no? I challenged. His gaze held mine. Then I will still make sure nothing touches you or him, he said. Even if you hate me for it. That was the worst part. I believed him. They wheeled me into recovery shortly after. The room was larger, quieter. A private suite, just like he'd said. Russo didn't leave. He stood near the window, speaking softly into his phone in a language I didn't recognize, his posture rigid, alert. I watched him while Leo slept on my chest. A dangerous man. A powerful man. The father of my child. I didn't know which terrified me most. Because one thing was already clear, whether I liked it or not. He wasn't going anywhere. And my life would never be simple again. I didn't sleep. Not really. Every time I drifted, I jolted awake, my hand flying to Leo's tiny chest to make sure it was still rising and falling. The hospital room was quiet except for the soft hum of machines and the muted city noise seeping through thick windows. Russo was still there. He stood near the window like a sentry. Jacket off now, sleeves rolled to his forearms. His reflection stared back at him in the glass. Hard lines, sharp eyes, a man built for war, not for rocking chairs and lullabies. And yet, when Leo stirred and made a soft, broken sound in his sleep, Russo turned instantly. You okay? He asked me, voice low. I nodded. He's dreaming, I think. Russo hesitated, then moved closer. Slowly, like he was approaching a wild animal that might bolt if startled. May I? He asked, gesturing to Leo. The question surprised me. I studied his face for any sign of entitlement, of demand. There was none. Just restraint. Carefully, I shifted Leo and placed him in Russo's arms. He froze. For a heartbeat, he didn't move at all, like he didn't trust his body with something this fragile. Then his arms adjusted, instinct kicking in, and he cradled Leo against his chest. Something in his expression changed. Not softened. Focused. Protective in a way that felt ancient and terrifying. He's light, Russo murmured. Too light. He's perfect, I said quietly. Russo swallowed. No one has ever trusted me with something this important. The admission hit harder than any threat. Then don't break it, I replied. He looked at me sharply, then nodded once. I won't. A nurse entered briefly to check vitals, her eyes flicking nervously toward Russo before returning to me. When she left, the silence returned, thicker than before. What happens now? I asked. Russo lowered himself into the chair beside the bed, Leo still in his arms. Now you recover. You bond with your son. And after that? His jaw tightened. After that we leave. My heart kicked painfully. Leave where? Somewhere safe. I didn't agree to that. You didn't know what you were agreeing to, he said calmly. Anger flared. You don't get to decide my life just because you showed up late. His eyes flashed. Late. He leaned forward. I came the moment I knew. You came when the hospital called. I shot back. Not when I needed you. The words hung between us, raw and ugly. Russo looked away first. I can't change that, he said quietly. But I can make sure you never face something like this alone again. I shook my head. You don't know me. I know you're stubborn, he replied. I know you're brave enough to walk into labor alone. And I know you're terrified right now. I swallowed hard. He stood and carefully returned Leo to my arms. Rest, he said. We'll talk in the morning. Where will you be? I asked despite myself. Right outside, he said. No one comes near you without my permission. That should have terrified me. Instead, exhaustion finally dragged me under. I woke to sunlight and the soft cry of my son. For one panic moment, I didn't remember where I was. Then the weight of Leo in my arms, the private room, the memory of a dangerous man standing guard snapped everything back into place. A woman entered quietly, older, calm, her movements confident. Good morning, she said. I'm Clara. I'll be helping you today. Helping how? I asked cautiously. She smiled gently. With the baby. With you. Mr. Russo asked me to. Of course he did. Leo fussed, and Clara showed me how to position him properly. Her touch was professional, kind. You're doing well, she said. He's strong. Did Mr. Russo hire you? I asked. Yes. My jaw tightened. I can't afford. She shook her head. You don't need to. Figures. Later, Russo returned, hair damp like he'd showered somewhere nearby. He carried a paper cup of coffee in one hand and something small in the other. He set it on my bedside table. A phone. A new number, he said. Encrypted. Only a few people have it. I didn't ask for a phone. You need one, he replied. If anything happens. I stared at it. This feels like a cage. His voice softened. It's armor. I laughed bitterly. Same thing, different words. He didn't argue. Eat, he said instead, pointing to a covered tray. You need strength. I did eat. I was too tired not to. By the afternoon, a doctor cleared me for discharge the next morning. The moment the words left her mouth, Russo's posture changed, subtle but unmistakable. We'll be ready, he said. We. I repeated. He met my gaze steadily. You and Leo. And me. No, I said quietly. I'm not moving in with you. I didn't say that. Then where are you taking us? Somewhere temporary, he said. Until things settle. What things? I demanded. He hesitated. That scared me more than any answer. There are people who watch hospitals, he said finally. People who notice unusual movements. You giving birth alone wasn't invisible. My blood ran cold. You're saying I'm in danger. I'm saying you and Leo are visible, he corrected. And visibility attracts attention. I didn't choose this. No, he agreed softly. But now you have to survive it. That night, as Leo slept curled against me, I stared at the ceiling and tried to understand how my life had fractured so completely in less than 24 hours. I had come here alone. I was leaving with a child and a shadow. In the early hours of morning, raised voices woke me. I froze, clutching Leo, heart racing. Through the door, I heard Russo's voice, low, furious. No, he said sharply. Not now. Not here. Another voice responded, muffled. They know about the baby, the man said. Words moving fast. Silence. Then Russo spoke again, deadly calm. Then we accelerate. Footsteps approached the door. I barely had time to sit up before Russo entered, his expression carved from stone. Get dressed, he said. We're leaving now. My heart dropped. What happened? He crossed the room and knelt beside the bed, his eyes locking onto mine. Someone asked about you downstairs, he said. Someone who should know your name. Fear flooded me. Who? I whispered. Russo's jaw tightened. A man who doesn't like me, he said. And who would love to hurt me through you. He stood. Pack nothing, he ordered. You only need the baby. The door opened behind him, his men already in motion. I clutched Leo to my chest, shaking. Russo, I said, my voice breaking. What are you doing? He turned back to me, eyes fierce, protecting what's mine. And in that moment, I understood. This wasn't temporary. This was the beginning of a war I'd been dragged into the moment I wrote his name on that form. They moved fast. Too fast. One moment I was sitting in a hospital bed, still smelling antiseptic and milk, and the next I was being wrapped in a coat that wasn't mine, Leo bundled tightly against my chest as if the world itself had turned hostile overnight. The hallway outside my room was empty. No nurses, no visitors, just Russo's men positioned like shadows, quiet, alert, terrifyingly efficient. "Keep your head down," Russo murmured as he guided me forward, his hand firm at my back. "Don't stop. Don't look around." My heart hammered, so hard I thought it might wake Leo. "This is insane," I whispered. "This is necessary," he replied. The elevator ride felt endless, every second stretched thin, filled with the imagined sound of footsteps rushing toward us, of someone shouting my name. But nothing happened. The doors opened to an underground garage, where a black SUV waited with its engine running. The door opened before we reached it. Russo took Leo from my arms without asking, shielding him as he placed him gently into a car seat already installed, already prepared. That realization sent a chill through me. "You planned this," I accused. "I prepared for possibilities," he corrected. "And kidnapping the mother of your child is one of them?" His eyes flashed. "Don't use that word." The car door slammed shut, sealing us inside. As the vehicle pulled away, I stared out the tinted window at the hospital shrinking behind us. I'd walked in alone. I was leaving escorted like a package. No, like a liability. "Where are you taking us?" I asked, my voice shaking despite my effort to stay calm. Russo sat across from me, knees wide, posture relaxed in a way that made it worse. "North," he said. "A house that doesn't exist on any public record." "That's not comforting." "It's not meant to be," he replied. "It's meant to keep you alive." The city gave way to highways, then trees. The farther we went, the quieter the world became. Leo stirred, making a soft sound. I leaned forward instinctively, reaching for him. Russo handed him back carefully, watching my every movement like he was cataloging my instincts. "You're good with him," he said. "I should be," I snapped. "I carried him." "You protected him," Russo corrected. "Even before he was born." I scoffed. "By dragging him into your world?" His jaw tightened. "By surviving long enough to bring him into this one." We drove for nearly 2 hours. When the car finally slowed, we turned onto a narrow road flanked by trees. A gate appeared out of nowhere, metal sliding open silently as we approached. Beyond it sat a house, not a mansion, not a fortress, a simple, modern structure tucked into the woods like it was hiding. "This is a safe house," Russo said. "Only a few people know about it." "Do they know about me?" "They know not to ask questions." Inside, the house was warm and understated. Wood floors, clean lines, security cameras subtly embedded into corners. It felt wrong, too calm for what was happening. A woman stepped forward from the kitchen, older, sharp-eyed. "Rosa," Russo said. "This is Mina." "And Leo." Rosa's expression softened immediately as she looked at my son. "Ah," she said gently. "So this is the little one." She took Leo with practiced ease, checking his blanket, murmuring to him in a language I didn't recognize. My arms felt empty the moment he left them. "Stay close," Russo said to Rosa. "No one leaves without my word." Rosa nodded. "Of course." Russo turned back to me. "You'll rest here. Just for a few days." "A few days until what?" I demanded. "Until I finish something." The words settled heavy in my chest. "What does finishing something mean?" I asked. His gaze hardened. "It means no one will ever use you or my son against me again." My stomach twisted. "You're going to hurt someone." "Yes," he said without hesitation. The honesty stole my breath. "I don't want blood on my child's life," I whispered. Russo stepped closer. "The blood was already there," he said quietly. "I'm just stopping it from reaching you." That night, I sat on the edge of the bed in a room that didn't feel like mine, listening to unfamiliar sounds of a place meant to disappear. Leo slept peacefully, unaware. I wasn't. Every creak made me jump. Every shadow felt alive. Russo didn't sleep. I found him in the living room before dawn, jacket on, phone pressed to his ear. "It's done," he said into the receiver. "No mistakes. No witnesses." I froze. He turned and saw me standing there. He ended the call and moved toward me slowly, carefully. How much did you hear? He asked. Enough, I said, my voice hollow. You killed someone. Yes. The simplicity of the word shattered something inside me. I should run, I whispered. You won't, he said softly, because you can't outrun this world. And because Leo needs stability. He needs a mother who isn't complicit. Russo's gaze dropped briefly. He needs a mother who's alive. Silence stretched between us. Then he surprised me. He actually knelt in front of me, bringing his eyes level with mine. I won't lie to you, he said. I won't pretend to be good, but I will be honest, and I will never hurt you or our son. I searched his face for deception. I found none, only certainty. Why me? I asked. Why did you come back? His expression softened in a way that felt dangerous. Because you were the one thing I couldn't forget, he said. And because fate doesn't knock twice. Tears slid down my face, silent and uncontrollable. I'm scared, I admitted. So am I, he said quietly. That's how I know this matters. Footsteps echoed behind us. Rosa appeared, holding Leo. He's hungry, she said. Russo stood immediately, tension melting from his shoulders as he took his son. The way he held Leo, gentle, protective, made my chest ache. In that moment, I realized something terrifying. I wasn't just trapped in his world. I was already tied to it. And when he looked at me over our child's head, his eyes burning with promise and possession, I knew the truth I'd been avoiding. There was no going back. Only forward. Into darkness. Together. The days blurred together in the safe house. Morning light filtered through tall windows, turning the wooden floors gold. Birds sang outside like the world was normal, like nothing dangerous had followed us into the woods. Leo adapted faster than I did. He slept, ate, cried, and stared at me with wide, curious eyes as if I was the most important thing in the universe. Maybe I was. Maybe that was the only thing keeping me upright. Russo stayed close, but never crowded me. He spoke quietly on the phone, always outside or behind closed doors. Men came and went, never staying long, never looking me in the eyes. Rosa became my anchor, teaching me how to bathe Leo, how to swaddle him tighter, how to rest even when fear made sleep impossible. On the third night, I found Russo sitting on the back steps, staring into the dark trees. Is it over? I asked. He didn't look up. Almost. I sat beside him anyway, holding Leo close. The night air was cool, crisp with pine. You're not angry anymore, I said. He finally turned to me. I'm focused. That's worse, I replied. A corner of his mouth lifted. You're learning. Silence stretched between us. Comfortable, uneasy, real. I never wanted this, I said finally. This life. This fear. I know, he said. Neither did I. I looked at him then, really looked. Not the man with power. Not the shadow everyone feared. A man with exhaustion etched into his face. A man sitting barefoot on wooden steps, watching his son breathe. What happens after? I asked. When it's done. He exhaled slowly. You decide. I frowned. That's new. You deserve choice, he said. I won't cage you. I almost laughed. You already did. His gaze sharpened. Protection isn't a cage if the door is open. And is it? I challenged. He met my eyes steadily. Yes. The next morning it ended. I didn't see it happen. I only knew because Russo came back just before sunrise, bloodless but hollow, like something heavy had finally been set down. It's finished, he said quietly. I held Leo tighter. No one else. No one, he assured me. You're safe. We left the safe house that afternoon. Not back to the hospital. Not to my apartment. To a penthouse overlooking the river, wrapped in glass and silence, guarded but breathtaking. It should have felt like another prison. Instead, it felt like breathing after drowning. This is temporary, I said immediately. Of course, Russo agreed. Until you decide. Days turned into weeks. I learned the rhythms of the place. Learned which rooms were mine, which doors stayed closed. Learned that Russo cooked when he was stressed, that he hummed absent-mindedly when he held Leo, that he never slept more than 4 hours at a time. One night, while Leo slept between us on the couch, Russo spoke softly. I didn't know I could want a family, he said. I thought I was built wrong. You're dangerous, I said. Yes. You're not gentle. No. I turned to him. But you're careful. He swallowed. With you. With him. That mattered. When he asked me to stay, not demanded, not assumed, I surprised myself by not saying no. I won't disappear into your world, I said. I won't become invisible. You won't, he promised. You'll be seen. The proposal didn't come with diamonds or kneeling. It came quietly, one night as Leo slept between us. Stay, Russo said. Choose this. Choose us. I thought about the girl who'd walked into the hospital alone. About the fear. About the mistake. I choose safety, I said slowly. I choose my son. And I choose you. We married months later. No press. No spectacle. Just us, Leo asleep in Rose's arms, and a promise spoken softly but held fiercely. I never went back to my old life. I didn't need to, because I hadn't lost myself. I'd found a version of me strong enough to survive darkness without being consumed by it. I walked into labor alone. I walked out with a child, a future, and a man powerful enough to burn the world and careful enough to never burn me. And that mistake? It changed everything.